gone past 6 p.m. This is the spiritual discussion program. I'm Saad in southeast London, and with me very Hello listeners, this is Saad from Bless Radio. I think we just had a disconnection, so we are back again live. This is the spiritual discussion program, and the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushing. Gregory, are you there? Oh, looks like we lost the connection. Let me get to reconnect with Gregory. Just checking. Gregory, are you there now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, yes, apologies. We had a bit of a delay. I'm not quite sure the reason for it. But you're back, you're live now. So I just wanted to ask you, how are you doing and how is the weather where you are?
One is fine, it is getting cold.
Yes, same here in London. It's overcast right now and cold as well, chilly, you can say. So the sun is, let's say, in hiding at the moment. But it was warm yesterday, I can say. It started chilly, but then it became warm. So the autumn is here, actually. The autumn equinox, it was yesterday, 22nd of September. That's, of course, in the northern hemisphere. The other people in the southern hemisphere, they'll be having the, I would say, the spring equinox. So welcome, listeners, to the Spiritual Discussion Program. The aim of the show, just to remind you, is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushing. And every week, we have a new topic for discussion, and the topic for tonight is to compare or not to compare. To compare or not to compare. If you have any questions or comments, you can join us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. There's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. Now, I'd like to start with, what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message, in the light of truth, by Uprushing, is the spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Abdrushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace, if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic for tonight is to compare or not to compare. To compare or not to compare. And if you wish to join in, or we encourage you to join actually, with any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, that is blessradio1, that's the number 1 there, .com. If you scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. Gregory and listeners, the first thing I like to do to start the topic discussion is to look in the meaning of the words in the topic. So again, the topic is to compare or not to compare. And basically, there's only one real keyword that we have it there, which is compare. So, and in the dictionary, I found one meaning for the word compare, and that is estimate, measure, or note the similarity or dissimilarity between. And they give an example of that. Individual schools compared their facilities with those of others in the area. So let me repeat. The meaning of the word compare in the dictionary says estimate, measure, or note the similarity or dissimilarity between. Gregory, how good is this meaning for our discussion?
Well, thanks for this question. The key thing here is that our framework is that of spirituality. And our concerns, the scope is basically the whole of creation but most especially in the world of matter. The world of matter is a part of creation, much denser. What you yourself read out, if it has to be taken in its intuitive sensing, then there must be a framework. That framework will be the laws of nature, the laws that apply not only here in the world of matter, but also beyond the world of matter. That means in creation as a whole. What you yourself read out are only part pointers, but there is a key word that you utilize in that particular phrase, in the meaning, to compare or not to compare. You mentioned similarities or the lack of similarities. These the dictionary have compiled to give only an inkling, whereas our concerns have to deal with not only the earthly meaning, but also the meaning in creation as they ring within the laws of creation. So that is a fair pointer, which we also need to expand on.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this answer, and I'm going to say the picture you're painting for us, which is with the context, providing the context for the discussion. And, we're talking about compare or not to compare. So obviously, if you're saying comparing, you must be comparing with something. So that's why it's absolutely necessary to have the context. And in the dictionary, there's no sense of any context, really. Just it's a very neutral word there. Just to compare, it could be anything comparing. A, B, C, D, compare with anything, almost. So, but we are giving a context in our discussion that, yes, we exist on the earth, which we know, of course. And there's not just the earth in this world or reality that we live in. There's something beyond the earthly as well. We just refer it to as creation because it's all part of creation, earthly and the non-earthly. So, which is of course a massive thing to look at. Now, I'm going to do like we do in our previous shows, also use Google AI, that is, to help us with the actual, what I will say, again, looking at the context or look at the whole topic in one go, in one like a form. So that is to search, I searched, to compare or not to compare. Now, this is the meaning I got from Google AI. The decision to compare or not to compare is nuanced. Comparing to gain self-knowledge or motivation can be healthy, but unhealthy, excessive comparison can lead to negative mental health outcomes like anxiety and depression by fostering feelings of inadequacy and a dangerous cycle of insecurity. The key is to compare mindfully, focusing on your own progress and goals rather than getting caught in a destructive comparison game, especially in the context of social media. So I would say this is a very specific type of comparison, but it gives a good, how can I say, picture of that particular type of the consequences of comparing or not comparing, or excessive comparing is the word they've used actually. So which can lead to some negative things. So, but as I said, they put it in a one specific example, which is gaining self-knowledge or motivation. That's what they said, um, which is a common thing, comparing yourself with others. This is a common type of thing that people do. So it's not completely there. But we are in our topic. We are really thinking of the whole creation. So it's quite a different level what we are trying to do. So I'm not going to focus too much on this Google AI words. Let's go. Let me just move on straight away, Rajesh. I want to ask, um, is it built in within us to compare? For example, whenever we try something, for example, eating food or drink, um, uh, we like to say we either like some of us will say we like it, some of us will say we dislike it or don't like it, and then even some could be indifferent. So my question is, Gregory, is it built in within us to compare?
To provide a fairly comprehensive picture to that expression compare, the need is there to have this framework, the framework of the laws of nature that has already been mentioned. To compare, you rightly said, you compare one thing to another. But the intuitive picture which should arise in the individual is to weigh and to examine. To weigh and to examine rigorously. To weigh and examine indeed, that is those things which are perceptible to the five senses that the individual possesses here on earth, to weigh and examine in thoughts, above all, to weigh and examine in one's intuition. That is the framework which is meant by comparison. Because in that case, when you weigh, indeed, you take one object, you look at another object, you weigh them. But you can only weigh things that are similar or that are homogeneous. Why? Because in accordance with the laws of motion, in which there is the attraction of homogeneity, one can only compare like with like. The same thing happens when one is comparing. You try to find out, in the case of reciprocal activities, when one is comparing fruits, the question one should ask, has the fruit ripened? That means, has it completed its cycle of growth and is now ripened? If that is the case, then you can compare as such these fruits with another fruit of the same species from another place. You are not going to compare oranges with mangoes. You compare oranges with oranges. Are they ripened? And all that. So that word compare, if one has to have the right concept, it verges on to weigh and to examine with the innate capabilities that have been granted the individual. So, in one's experiencing, the need is there to weigh and to examine.
Thank you, Gregory, for this answer and giving us the focus on what exactly, when we talk about compare, because the word compare on its own is really, how can I say, very hard to, so you could compare anything with anything, but then we have to bring in context, and we have to bring in, what are you comparing? A with the B, or apple with apple, or apple with orange, or even something completely outside of that, apple with rice, or even something that is not even physical. And so there's something similar and something dissimilar. Well, common sense we should tell you that, if you compare something totally dissimilar, what can you expect to understand from that? There must be there's a limitation on that one. However, if you compare like with like, as they say, apple with apple, or maybe apple with orange, because we consider them both fruits, so you can compare like that way. What type of apples, what's benefit of apple, what's the benefit of orange? I'm just making that up, then you can think, there's something similar there you can look at, but if you have something totally different, let's say ice cream and apple, then it's obviously a completely different thing, so again, but I will say normally when we compare, it will be same category, let me say, that you'll be looking at, not something too much fantastical type of thing. So because otherwise you can't even connect anything there. So let me continue from there now. Now, just seeing. Yes, Gregory, I know I gave this example of apple with apple or apple with orange. Is there any benefit, because we have that ability to compare, so is there some benefit in comparing? Because, for me, I look at life, there's everything in the world that exists, sometimes there has an advantage. Not only it has advantage, but there's also some disadvantage. And it's like a mechanism. You can't expect, if I say about a car, a car can do certain things, and then that will be the advantages, you can say. And there's certain things it can't do, or it's not very efficient in a particular thing. So I don't have any specific example of that right now. If I think of something, obviously, okay. If I were to say one car can be a fast car, a sports car. Another could be a slower, not really a sports car, definitely a different type of car. Like they have these I've forgotten what they're called, but they're four wheelers which are high. I've forgotten the word they use for them. So they cannot go as fast as let's say a sports car can go. So let me go back to the question now, Gregory. So yes, is there a way, when I put it, is like I said, everything has an advantage and there can be disadvantage. So it's like this is the physical world that we have these capacities, you can say. So what I want to ask, are we really, my question really is it okay to compare these things, or is it not? I know you talked about weighing and examining, but I just want to bring, just maybe you can talk about this. What's the advantage? What's the good thing of weighing and examining or comparing?
It is intrinsic to the human personality that in order to gain knowledge, it has to exert itself to weigh, to differentiate, to compare like with like. That like with like, therein comes homogeneity. It is so well built in that only when the individual compares, only when the individual weighs and examines, that individual will not gain the necessary knowledge or gain the necessary impression, the necessary inputs that is passed on to the spirit for its maturity. Therefore, the need for alertness is there. That which is of benefit to the human personality is that which has been weighed, which has been examined rigorously from all perspectives, in all its shades, the different types. So it will be wrong for the human personality not to use its ability to weigh and to examine. For how else can it become self-conscious? The self-consciousness alone already predates that there must be some form of activities. Only when it engages in these activities and is able to differentiate. When you differentiate, there must be other things you're differentiating against, and subsequently rise up or sinks. If in order to differentiate, it sinks into the world of matter, then the experiences there are to awaken the human personality. Not only to awaken, but also to take the impression which it has gathered internally, because that one will lead to self-consciousness. So it's not just mere comparison and going away. It is much, much than that. And that is why the word compare, when the concept is taken intuitively, which one has now equated to weigh and to examine, because one has to be awake in doing these things, then you will find that it is so intrinsic, and that is what the human personality must be engaged in to follow it aright. The advice to watch and pray is then given. All these things are connected. They are very well linked. So it's not the petty comparison of gossips that you find here and there, but those activities which are to ennoble the human personality, that is what he should be engaged in his weighing, in his examination, in accordance with the laws that has permitted it to come into creation.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for really clarifying and expanding our understanding of this concept of to compare or not to compare in terms of really what is weighing and examining and what is involved in it. Yes, we have this ability with the five senses, which is earthly. Then we also have this intuition, you could say the voice of the spirit, which can also weigh and examine. And this weighing and examining, the idea is to be which is the aim of a human being, is to become from unconscious to conscious to self-conscious, which we have said it many times in our previous shows as well. So this process of weighing and examining, the idea is to use that or apply that to move us from unconscious to conscious to self-conscious, which is through the activities and experiencing that we go through. So there's much more to talk about in this topic. Before we continue, I'd like to let the listeners know you're listening to Bless Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abrushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is to compare or not to compare. To compare or not to compare. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. There's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is to compare or not to compare. And after this show, which we end at 8 p.m. UK time, you can listen to a recording of this show, which is again the same way. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, which is the same words as earlier, which is Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail Message, space, to compare or not to compare. And also, of course, you can listen to our previous shows of the previous recordings again on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's Zeno dot fm /radio bless radio 1. That's the number 1 there again. Now, Gregory, we are seeing, how can I say, the importance of, we're calling it compare, or not to compare, but it's weighing and examining is really what we are equating it to. Now, weighing and examining, you can do it in the earthly way, what you see physically with your 5 senses that you have. Then you also, as you said, the context for this discussion is not limited to the earthly, it's in fact the whole creation. So the creation is not only earthly, it is also the non-earthly, or the beyond is another way we can put it. And in the beyond there are a number of worlds, and they are not physical. That's the point. Earthly, by earthly we mean the physical, or matter is the better way to put it. We can go into a bit more detail of that. So there is something called gross matter, which is the physical one that we are very familiar with. There's even medium matter and medium gross matter. Is that the right way to call it? And then there is, so it's actually, so gross matter, it consists of dense gross matter, medium, and then medium gross matter, and fine gross matter. So just to give a picture of what we mean by that, is that when we do physical deeds, that is happening in the dense gross matter. Then we have our thoughts, which are happening in the medium gross matter, and then there's the it slipped my mind now, fine gross matter. Greg, can you help me with that? So what do we find we have words, isn't it? Words and thoughts. I've now remembered that. So the words are, if I'm correct, Greg, can you just help me with that? Are the words in fine gross matter? I'm not able to, let's say, correctly remember that.
The partitioning, they are very fine. Words are in gross fine matter.
It is fine matter, okay, yes.
Yeah, but one should not go into all these details, but look at the essential things and then move on.
Yes, you're right. Because, yes, listener, just to say this, that really we are giving only an introductory discussion in this show. Really, the detail of everything is to be found in the Grail Message itself. And we don't also want to lose you by going to all the details. That would be, let's say, going too far. But I just wanted to establish that what is this gross matter, what is matter, and there is a dense gross matter, there's a medium gross matter, and there's a fine. So there are 3 different levels there, okay? And our words, our thoughts, and our physical deeds are belonging to these 3 categories. But that is still what you can call it earthly. That's what I really wanted to get into. And there's something beyond the earthly, which is, again, it's actually, well, I'll just say it, it's called ethereal matter, which is, again, matter, but it's not the same as the gross matter. So that is the next world. When we pass on, just to give a bit of clarity what we are talking about, so it doesn't sound so alien. So when we die, we move into the ethereal world. So I know there might be people thinking, oh, the death is our earth life is the ended and finished, complete on this earth. When we die, no, because that's, let's say, people might think this way, but otherwise what would be the purpose? If you question about it, we're saying to weigh and examine. Is that really the purpose, to just live on the earth? Some people just die even as a baby, and what sort of earth life is that? So you can question that again, if you call it comparing, but we are saying is weighing and examining. So all these scenarios, the moment you spend a little effort to reflect on it, you will say, does it really make sense that I live only a short time, or live 100 years or whatever it is, uh, and that's it? And you ask within yourself, not just, you could say, physical evidence, because these things are not, when something is not physical, you can't look at it with the physical way. It has to be used by non-physical. And what is this non-physical world or way that we have to use? So we've talked about the five senses, just in case it's a bit of recap, you can say. These are the physical senses. And then we have something which is non-physical, which is called the intuition. That is a sense. So, so we can use that as well. In quotes, comparing, or the proper way to call it, weighing and examining. So, yes. So there is a world beyond this physical, which is, we call it ethereal, and there's more than that beyond that too. And all of this, as I say, might sound a bit mysterious, or it might sound unknown. Well, in a way, it is unknown until you become, as we say, conscious. Because the idea is to become conscious, from unconscious to conscious. So there's all this part of the journey, and all of this is part of comparing or weighing and examining. So I know I'm talking a lot. Let me go to some question now. These seem to be very earthly questions that I have drafted, but listeners, you're welcome to come up with your own questions. So, Gregory, in the world today, we have our, call it, politicians or leaders of the countries and so on, and always they're in the news, of course, and we are always looking at what they say and their behavior, their character. And unfortunately, in many cases, we find there's something falling short of, you could say, exemplary behavior or integrity. And again, we can't help, I don't know, either comparing with what we think something should be like, or someone should be like, or because they're supposed to represent the country, you have certain expectation. As I say, and we can't help to compare, So what I'd like to ask on that one, Gregory, should we expect our leaders, politicians and so on, country leader, and think leaders are such leaders of government, to be, how can I say, exemplary in, with a showing, integrity, transparency, keeping their promises, and not doing U-turn, should, I'm almost saying, Gregory, I might sound a bit strange in this word, can we expect perfection from these people who are supposed to lead us?
The question you asked is very appropriate, in the sense you asked, can we expect ABC from these people? When the individual wishes to compare the activities of one or some individuals, that must be done first in accordance with the laws of creation, the laws of nature. If, however, you, who is the person who does the comparison, the weighing and examining, you are expecting others to exhibit characteristics which they themselves, in accordance with the laws of nature, do not have, then the errors is yours, because that has to do with a wrong expectation. Never try to expect from another that which that person has not got. The individual who has not got patience, why do you expect patience from that person? In your comparison, you find it is lacking. The individual who does not keep his word or her word, why do you expect that from that particular person? Whether the person is a politician or not, whatever you care to call them, whether they are leaders or not, it is you yourself who call them leaders. For when you expect that which entails in leadership, in showing the way forward, and in your expectation, you are expecting those who are blind, who do not know what their responsibilities are. You are expecting them to take on responsibilities which you think is most appropriate. In that scenario, the fault is not theirs but yours, because you are expecting them to give you what they do not have. So, but you hear of this every day. If in your inability to see beyond words, you then decide to say vote or put such a person in a position of responsibility, it is you who has placed that person in a position of responsibilities when that person has shown you again and again he or she lacks that ability. So it's a no-brainer. Each individual must weigh not only in deeds, in thoughts, but also in one's intuition. As long as the individual is unable to weigh and examine and to compare, in quotes, in accordance with the laws of nature, then the expectation from others, you will find that that individual will be disappointed. So it's not a matter, we expect this from the leader, we expect this. You yourself call that person a leader. A leader is the one who is able to lead in deeds, in his thoughts, and in his intuitions. If that person is unable by his works or by her works, how do you then follow such an individual?
Thanks for that answer, Gregory. What I was thinking, when somebody is, let's say, leader of a country, president, whatever it happens to be, prime minister, it's a position, and they represent that position. So I know it's a person in that position, and they have, obviously everybody has their own ability, and but if there's an expectation to behave or act in accordance with that position. So, but the way you were saying about it is the human being himself or herself. That is the rather than it's like you're supposed to strive to work in that position in the best way you can work. You know, of course, nobody's a perfect. I know I use the word perfect, but let's just make it easy. That nobody's actually perfect, but they should be striving. to have the best, be the best in that position. And but we do notice that, let's say, either it is in quote selfish reasons the person is there, or they have some agenda behind what they are, the way they're doing. And then in this one, they don't look at their position anymore. It's more about something else. So, so again, I'm comparing. So I'm saying, Gregory, there is a person who is the leader. You said, yes, I'm calling that leader, or people are calling him the leader, but he's in a position of the leader, and he or she should act in accordance with that position, even if they are not perfect. So maybe there's that comparison also need to be taken into account, because once you become that position, you're supposed to act according to that. You know more. Let's say before that, whoever you were before that position, you're supposed to rise up to that position. So can there be? So can I bring this another question on it? That yes, we have our own expectation, which can be wrong, and then the person fails to meet that expectation. But what about the person who is in the position, striving to be acting in the position that he's supposed to, So there should be an expectation of the position, if I can say like that. So can human beings, the question, what can I ask about that? So yes, should we have that expectation of the position? The person should be able to, serve in that position?
Let us put aside expectations on the position. Let us consider the responsibilities as the key. The leader or the individual who puts himself forward must, or hopefully, or strives to have developed itself to take on responsibilities. If the individual says he or she is capable of fulfilling these responsibilities, and you who listens to that individual, if you yourself do not use your abilities to do the comparison or the assessment, and in that lack of examination and weighing, you push the individual there. When that individual gets there, a position of responsibilities, he or she is unable to fulfill it. Just like someone can say, oh, I want to be a doctor. When I'm there, I'll be leading the medical team. That is not how it goes. You yourself must have prepared yourself before you come to such a position. Because these are responsibilities, not only for one person, but for a whole nation. So when the expression responsibilities are put out there, then you need to ask yourself, is this person capable of handling these responsibilities? Just like you will ask someone who wishes to be a driver, like a truck driver, and he says, okay, I want to be the leader or the leading truck driver. Has that person got the abilities to be a leading truck driver when that person, strictly speaking, can't even drive a truck? Or someone in the medical field who wants to be a leader and yet hasn't got the abilities? If that particular individual is then permitted to carry out medical operations, you can imagine what would then happen. How many people will be sacrificed needlessly? So it's a question of responsibilities. Push away the position and put in responsibilities, because the responsibilities in which not one but millions are looking up to you to take the responsibilities in making the conditions of the nations better, so that they can live a more purposeful life. If you yourself do not know what a purposeful life is, how can you then show what it is? If you yourself do not have patience and perseverance, how can you show as a leader patience and perseverance? So many a time there is a wrong expectation, because many people are too lazy to examine thoroughly, and they allow a flood of meaningless words to intoxicate them. That is what happens when you have cases of dictators from time immemorial. People will come, they say, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, without carefully weighing, without carefully examining, comparing what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. You just follow the person. Later on, you say the person is your leader. How can you talk about leadership when you don't know what responsibilities or the task of a leader?
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this. Oops. So, apologies. Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer you've given there, and bringing the focus, to what really we should be looking at, and not you could say, I don't know if to say superficial or shallow sort of aspects of life. We can fall into the trap of looking at others, looking at others, as we're talking about comparing, looking at others, but then really start with looking at yourself. That's the first thing. And at the end of the day, you can't change another person. You can only change your own self. So, and that all this expectation, it has to be, we have to realize, our, how could I say, own reality of limitations and so on. So let's, let us continue a bit more on our discussion in a moment. I just want to let the listeners know that you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Upkrushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to the website, this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is to compare or not to compare. To compare or not to compare. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK phone number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 7939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one, .com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. We are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number one there again, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is to compare or not to compare. And you can listen to our other previous shows as well, also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO .fm/radio/bless radio 1. That's the number one again. Now, Gregory, Jesus said, treat others as you would like to be treated. Does that mean we should forgive everything? Because we've been talking about the political leaders and or such people who are in high position, and we realize, we had a wrong expectation to expect them in quotes to be perfect or some exemplary person. And of course, if they don't have that ability or they're not striving for that capability, we can't expect them to have it. But then we are told by Jesus, treat others as you would like to be treated. So does that mean we should forgive everything?
This to forgive everything and the other statement, these are two different things. To forgive does not mean that one should not examine. What is it that is being forgiven? That is the first question. If that's which the individual, the other neighbor has done, is beneficial in accordance with the laws of nature, if it is beneficial to you, do you forgive that person for that which has been done and is beneficial to you and beneficial to the environment? That is not the case. Only that which has been done, which violates the laws of nature, with respect to the individual who had to suffer harm, only that may be forgiven. Why should that be forgiven? Very simply, for with such activities, a thread is woven. When a thread is woven which attaches one person to the other, because the other person has injured, has done harm to another, the person who suffers the harm has the ability to sever that thread. For if that thread is not severed, there will be that connection, that link, such that wherever the person who is the offender goes, that individual may have to follow. If, however, that thread is severed, because one has an understanding what must have happened, And also, one wishes to improve itself from the scenario that it has just suffered from, then one is able to focus his activities on more noble enterprises, on more noble activities which will bring benefits not only to himself but also to others. Then that word forgiveness only means that the individual is able to work on himself, to focus on himself for self-improvement and rise higher, rather than focus on other people and keep bearing grudges.
Thanks, Gregory, for your answer there. I just was told that the Blessed Radio website has stopped broadcasting. Um, I've just spoken to the person on the where this radio station is broadcasting, and unfortunately, there's been a power surge. So we are going to carry on our show as normal, and the person will so reboot the computer on their side to get the broadcasting computer working. In the meantime, we're going to carry on with the show because the show is being recorded. And the reason was there was a power surge. So apologies, listeners, if you can't hear us. You can definitely, as soon as I know that the website is back up and running, broadcasting, I will let you know that. But you can still listen to the recording. So Gregory, we're going to carry on. And apologies for that, listeners. Now, Gregory, another thing I want to ask is, everybody, we are all human beings, and we need to live and work together in, let's say, peace and harmony. But sometimes, like I said at the beginning, you might not like or dislike, let's say, somebody that you have to work with, or whoever that happens to be. Okay, maybe it's at work, so you don't get much choice there. I mean, even you can move to go to another job. But anyway, the question I would like to ask there, Gregory, is because it sounds when I ask the question, you'll understand it might sound as if there's something contradictory. So, Gregory, can we respect? Should we respect everyone? That's what I'm trying to say. Even if we don't, I don't know if about agreeing, but if something we can't get on with somebody in whatever way it is, but it's like you have a job. It's not like you've chosen to be in this place to be with these other people, and for some reason there's something you can't accept or agree with, and yet so should you continue to show respect to those people, or because it might sound that you're being a hypocrite or contradicting maybe some principle of, let's say, integrity or whatever. There's somebody's doing something, either it's the personality of the person, or what they're doing. So I don't have actually a specific issue on that, but something you don't respect. And so should you continue to show respect if something you don't agree with, or should you do some action to come out of this situation?
Many times, if one looks at the scenario, you will find that many a time we ourselves are in scenarios where we need to learn to understand or to experience the weaknesses that have, or that others have put forward, because they exhibit their weaknesses just as we sometimes exhibit our weaknesses. In such scenarios, it's only important for the individual to develop itself in order to know how to handle the situation. For if you yourself do not handle that situation well at that time, and you sever yourself and go somewhere else, the lessons which are supposed to have been internalized, you therefore lack. And in moving to another, very likely you might come across a similar scenario. Question is, how do you then respond to the new scenario when you find similarities between the past where you just left and the new place you had just arrived at? If, however, in quotes, such unpleasant scenarios, the individual has comported itself and knows how to respond in different ways without harming itself, then the possibility is there that when it moves to another scenario, it already knows how to act such that no evil thread will be woven along the line, because it knows how to respond to these challenges. Simple example, like we keep saying in the case of football, you try to do score a goal and it's not possible at all. You do everything you can, it's not possible. Do you then give up and say, oh, the challenges are too much? It is the task of the individual to experience, and through experience to develop itself to know how to tackle challenges. So the scenario you just mentioned is a particular challenge which the individual must contend with in deeds, in thoughts, and in its intuitions. It may be that you yourself don't like it, but in finding a solution on how to deal with it, before long, you yourself may go somewhere else, and having learned the necessary lesson, you will know how to adjust yourself.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer there. What we're going to keep discovering or finding is that we must always look at the big picture, the spiritual picture. We always see things from our point of view, which of course is understandable. However, we don't live on this earth world alone, not only earth. If we go after passing on, we're still we exist, and other people also exist. And so we can't run away or hide in a cave or whatever, thinking, oh, this is how, we think, oh, dismiss the problem or overcome the problem somehow like that. So you can't avoid reality, let me say that way. So if there is a problem, it needs to be resolved. Mostly we think somebody else is the problem, not us. But actually it's always us. Because of the way we are behaving, the other person is also responding. But we will think, no, the other person is the issue, not me. No, nothing happened by accident. the other person is almost like a reflection of, in some cases it can be this way, that they're acting out according to how you're acting out. So, as I said, it may not be always this way, but nothing is. When you reflect deeply on this matter, you will see, oh, why is this thing's always happening to me? Some question might arise, you know. So we're talking about to compare or not to compare. Well, mostly when we're talking about comparing, it's always someone else, something else, not you, us. Or as we are saying, the better word for compare is to weigh and examine. Weigh and examine. It doesn't say weigh and examine others or you. It just says weigh and examine. So yes, you can look at the other person, but don't forget you're also there too. So if nothing happened, as I say, without the accident, you're also involved in it. You might not see your part so easily as you watch the other people. We are very good in observing others and making criticism from them about them. But no, it's a two-way, how can I say, two-way, two-street world, two-way world, not one way. So you can't just disconnect yourself from that reality. Now, I've got some questions or statements from my colleague, Mrs. Harriet Hoppe, which actually she's giving, this one is a quote actually. Yes. So this is, what she wrote is, we believe, for what we believe to be truth today may well turn out to be lie tomorrow, then yet again to be found to be the truth the day after. And this actually, I will say, is paraphrasing of the actual words in the Grail Message, which is in the lecture called Awake. So I'm going to actually read that out so that we get the picture here. It says, you seek the truth. What is truth? What you still feel to be the truth, what you still feel to be truth today, you will recognize even tomorrow as error, in which, however, you will later again discover grains of truth. For the manifestations also change their forms. Thus your seeking continues. Yet amid these changes you mature. Truth, however, remains always the same. It does not change, for it is eternal. And being eternal, it can never be clearly and truly grasped by the earthly senses, which are familiar only with the change of forms. Therefore, become spiritual, free from all earthly thoughts, and then you will possess the truth, will stand in the truth, and will bathe in it, constantly surrounded by its pure light, for it will envelop you completely. As soon as you become spiritual, you will swim in it. Gregory, for an outsider, these words might sound contradictory because it says, what you seek the truth. And what is truth? What you still feel to be truth today, you'll recognize even tomorrow as error, in which, however, you later discover grains of truth. I just want to concentrate on this line, Gregory, because it sort of sounds a bit, let me say the word weird, because how can you can, of course you can believe something is the truth and then discover it is wrong somehow. And then the next day after that, you see again grains of truth in it. So how can you explain that, Gregory? How is it possible one can see something that was true, then discover it is not true, and then next day after you discover there are grains of truth in there?
That only explains that it is the individual who is maturing, who is experiencing. That which has been observed may remain the same, but you in your maturity today find something which agrees with your present state of maturity. Who knows what happens tomorrow? You might as well have sunk a bit, and therefore you disagree, and subsequently you observe it again, and you then find grains of truth. So that statement is pointing to the fact that it is the individual, the attitude of the individual that is changing as such, not that which has been observed as such. For one can have scenarios. Today you observe and you agree that, oh, the sun rises from the east and sets in the west. You take it as a matter of fact. Only on further weighing and examination, wait a minute, no, it's not the sun that rises, but it is the earth that moves, that spins in its axis. All these things are observed. Whereas yesterday you had said, oh, it is the sun that rises. Today you say, oh, it's different. That which is in nature, that which is in creation, which are governed by the laws. The individual also is a child of creation. That child of creation needs to experience and grow in creation, first to become aware, that means to become conscious, and subsequently to become self-conscious. Only when it has matured to that effect, through experiencing all the different changes that is happening in creation, only then will it be strong enough. It has now grown from being a child of creation to a child of the Almighty, in the sense it has become self-conscious. However, the motion in creation continues. The motion which permitted the individual to mature continues. That motion does not change, for it remains continuous. But the individual that seeks maturity through experiencing changes.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this answer you've given us there. I'm going to continue with a couple more points from Mrs. Hoppe, which is this I will say as a comment, and perhaps the actual key to be believed of truth to hold within the framework of any given comparison. For what benefits a man if their whole life, let me just stick to that one, because just to listeners, to give you a little bit of sort of background to what these statements are. they're saying all the rhetorical comments above are spoken or written out of personal understanding of the knowledge to be found in the Grail message in the light of truth. So this personal one we are referring to is Mrs. Hoppe. So she's had her own personal experience, and she wanted to share that with this topic of comparing or not to compare or not to compare. And uh, and of course, like I said, it's about your own experiences, and people have different experiences. And of course, like we say, we do like to compare. It seems to be part of our nature to do that. Or the better way to say is to weigh and examine, our experiences. So and Gregory, we just talked about what you thought was the truth today. Tomorrow you'll find, oh, actually it wasn't correct. And then the third day, you think, oh, there's some truth in what I was accepting. Yes, there was some error in it as well, but partly there was a truth in it as well. So it's just, how can you say to explain that? Yes, you were looking from one angle, or the level of maturity that you happen to be, let's say yesterday. Then today you're a different level of maturity, and then you see it differently. Like I say, a wider perspective suddenly, uh, which means that what you thought yesterday is actually now wrong. And then tomorrow you see actually there's some things which are not completely wrong. There was still some truth there. Elements were correct. So this is the reality, that the picture that we are not seeing. And then say for that. So what the statement is, perhaps the actual key is to believe, uh, uh, to be believed of truth, to hold within the framework of any given comparison. Um, and I'm just hoping people will get that. Um, I don't know, Gregory, do you want to make any comment on that?
To be fair, I do not understand what has been
Yes,
written out there.
yeah. It's the way the person writes, and it's almost like a puzzle. I have to admit it, because I myself struggle to work out what is the puzzle trying to say. And I think the clue they give is this is rhetorical. So not always you are supposed to uh, reflect yourself, not expect always, oh, I ask a question and you get an answer, that absolutely that gives the picture answer to that question. It's a rhetorical, meaning that you have to work on it, some like a puzzle, I would call it, where you have to work it out. So I'm going to try and do the working out from this one, if I can. Uh, I think it's basically what you've been saying a lot already, Gregory. Everything is we are supposed to do within a context. If that context you are not aware is, let's say in our case, we are discussing that these things happen in the world of creation, they're happening in creation, but you yourself only looking at earthly, as if the only events happen in the earth. But the reality is events take place not only on earth, but in creation, and earth is part of that creation. So you are excluding some event without realizing it, which is outside of the earth, or outside meaning beyond the earth, but within creation. So, but you don't know that. So because of that, your comparison, or even weighing and examining, as we say it, you are not doing it correctly. You are doing in a narrow way, not seeing the big picture. So this is how I take it, this rhetorical point being made, which is, just to repeat that, perhaps the actual key is to be believe of truth, to believe, let's say, I'm putting my own word now, to believe uh, in truth, is to hold within the framework of any given comparison. So like we say, like with like, if you compare outside of that, then don't be surprised, it will not make sense. So sorry I've been going around it, but it's the rhetorical nature of the expression which makes it a bit difficult. Let me move on to another one. This one says, For what benefits a man if their whole life be nothing more than comparing one version of this or that or the other until all joy is suffocated and nothing of their essence, I, their spirit, has truly lived. So let me repeat this one. For what benefits a man if their whole life be nothing more than comparing one version of this, that, or the other, until all joy is suffocated and nothing of their essence, i.e. their spirit, has truly lived? Gregory, maybe let me respond to this myself, because I have it in writing in front of me, and as I said, the first point of all of this thing is to absorb it, these statements. So what I get from this statement is that, yes, you can compare A with B to C. Of course you can, right? However, it could be a mechanical process that you're using all the time, dry. We know 1 + 1 is 2 and 2 + 1 is 3 and so on and so on. Okay, I know that's not really comparing, but you can do it like in a dry mechanical way of comparing, but it doesn't give any joy when you do that way, and even, let's say, more fundamentally, it doesn't support your work with your spirit, which is what you truly are. A truly living being is the spiritual life, let's call it that. The real life is the spiritual life. Yes, you're on the earth. Yes, you eat. Yes, you have a job. Yes, you have a home, and all these things that you do earthly. That's for sure. Some people are more successful than others. Fine. However, the real experiencing that we have been sharing with you, it is about spiritual life. You can still have the spiritual life doing earthly things, not that there is some two separate things, but the spiritual one, there's joy, there's peace, there's love, all these non-measurable elements, and that is what gives life to that. We have passion, all these words that we use, it can't be measured, and that's what makes a person alive. So that is the spiritual aspect of our life, which is the fundamental fundamental of what we actually are, as real human beings. The mechanical aspect, yes, you have to eat, yes, you have to live in a home, and yes, you need peace and harmony in that place as well. But if that can be done, if you do it only mechanically, with the earthly things in mind, which mostly means adding to what you already have, that is not going to give you true peace and true happiness. Even though you, in quotes, own these things, it's on its own, it's not enough. It's the actual, how your inner being is responding, to the world around. And also, not only we respond, we also can give out. So there's that angle of it, and all of that is spiritual. That's the point that is being made. Yeah. And apologies to you, Gregory, for having to throw that onto you. I thought that I better handle this one. So, yeah. Okay. Before we continue, I just want to tell the listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Aprushi. And if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we are discussing tonight is to compare or not to compare. To compare or not to compare. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. And I hope we are back. I haven't checked actually. We are broadcasting on the website, which is blessradio1, that's the number one, .com. And there if you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. You can type in any questions or comments there. In case people are wondering, why are we broadcasting on blessradio.1? Unfortunately, there was a power surge, which basically stopped the website from broadcasting. However, I believe you should be able to listen to us on YouTube. So if you go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number one, space Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is to compare or not to compare. And that after the show at 8 p.m., you can listen to the recording of this show. Again, on youtube.com. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number one there, space Grail Message, space to compare or not to compare. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows, the recording of them, also on YouTube. Thirdly, this depends on our broadcast working. It's Zeno. You can listen to us on Zeno. That's Zeno, ZENO.FM/radio/Bless Radio 1. That's the number one there. Now, Gregory, sometimes it appears, I know it's comparing, but why not? We are talking about this world, Earth, and creation. When we pass on from this Earth, we enter the next world. Let's call it ethereal. And there's further part of the journey to continue there. Why I'm asking now, Gregory, this question is the accountability with human beings on the earth. It seems to be limited or not perfect somehow. People get away with things, wrong things they do, evil, whatever. I'm talking firstly with the human justice system. It seems to not able to achieve proper justice. But then we also know we are living in this creation where the natural laws are working, which are supposed to be perfect. And then you wonder, okay, somebody, it looks like, escaped the justice on the earth. And that is why you say, okay, maybe something going to happen to them in the beyond, in the next world. So my question is, Gregory, can there be real justice on the earth, or is it really not? It happens in the beyond, let's say.
Within the activities in creation, in the world of matter, and the earth being an integral part of the world of matter, the laws of nature, also the laws of creation, are active. The individual uses the physical body which physical body is perceptible using the five senses, and subsequently, these are channels that receive or give out impressions here on earth. These impressions strike, have an impact, has an effect on the soul of the individual, the soul being the spirit that has covering. When the individual leaves the earth, the physical body, which is the last covering, is left behind because the soul has always been there. Subsequently, as the soul matures, it keeps dropping the different bodies, the ethereal body, the animistic body, until it gets back home as a self-conscious human spirit for those who have matured in accordance with the laws of creation. They have become self-conscious. That means that whilst the human personality is on earth, it has the physical body. And groups come together depending on their maturity. They put together a justice system which they then follow. But like you rightly know, most of these things are not followed at all. As at that time, the time of Moses, the people were permitted the 10 Commandments. These were guides. These were statements, guides, to enable the human personalities to mature in accordance with these laws, such that they will become not only conscious, but self-conscious, and know how to take responsibilities. What you refer to as justice, that only makes sense when there are responsibilities attached to activities. A violation of these responsibilities, a violation which may always be considered only in accordance with the laws of nature, that is recorded. The same thing happens with the ethereal body, with the animistic body, and then with the human spirit. So you will find that the more mature the individual or group of individuals are, the more they will make laws, they will enact laws which tend towards the laws of nature, the laws of creation. If they are not as mature, then you will find there is a great variation between the laws of nature or the laws of creation and the laws which have been made here on earth. Sadly, there is a great variance between the human laws which are so very one-sided, and the laws of creation, which they themselves are complete, therefore perfect, and the laws which many a nation or a group makes, which are incomplete. They are incomplete in the sense they only observe the externals. They do not take into consideration, to a large extent, human thoughts or the human intuitions. That is what makes it one-sided. And they inflict punishment upon the individual without having the right notion of what had transpired in thoughts or in one's intuition. They only take the outermost effect and base their judgment on that. And that is why it is said it's incomplete.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for that explanation, uh, which points out the limitation of human justice and, the laws of creation. So there's a level which human beings haven't reached to align with the laws of nature, you can say, to achieve the perfection which is necessary, really, if we are to say this is a real justice. So thank you for that. Now, another question I have is, when someone is trying to win their, I'm going to say, point or argument, they will try to let's say, make personal attack on the opponent's weaknesses. Let's call it weak. So, we call it again comparing. So, Gregory, is this really a way to show? So that is when, let's say, you're trying to win an argument, I'm saying, and with another person, and you now pick on their weaknesses or point out make personal attack on them. Is this a way to win an argument?
It is a distorted way of observation. For if the other person's challenge, you might have people who are blind or people who cannot speak properly. You may call these ones weaknesses. It is the object that is to be examined, that is to be weighed, not the person. The person puts forward the arguments on what is to be examined, not the person itself.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Gregory. I'll just repeat it in a way that we see a lot in the news, these politicians or whatever, press as well, in quotes, countering things. Sometimes it's out of sensationalism, sometimes it is to try to win the argument, like I'm saying, pointing out the weakness of the other one. But as you have pointed out, Gregory, this is not about putting somebody else down. No, you have to, if you want to prove your point, you need to show that it stands up. Not about, oh, he's weak, that one is strong. No. is, so it could be, say, any point, any issue, environment, whatever. Some people are saying, oh no, uh, yes, it sounds good to produce energy without minimizing the pollution, but then they're saying these new approaches which supposedly reduce the pollution, but they're not efficient, they cost more, whatever it is. And then suddenly, rather than, okay, that's a valid point, you counter with another valid point. But what happens? No, these people are corrupt or whatever. It'll all get into some tangle, and no more, let's say, genuine. Everything has to be genuine in treating each other. We said, as you would treat another one, as you would be treating yourself. Treat another same as yourself. So will you attack yourself? Will you be making all these points, oh, you're no good in this, you're no good in that? That's not an objective, as correctly you have pointed out. No. So that's not the fair way to do something. You're just trying to score points to prove something, but not actually the real valid issue that you're supposed to be talking about. So thank you for that. Dear listeners, we've come to the end of the show tonight on the topic of to compare or not to compare, or let's say better put is to weigh and examine. That's and not just to weigh, examine with the five senses, but also with our intuition. I just wanted to say that you could say in short and summarizing the topic. So I would like to now end with reading from the Grail Message, the foreword, which is at the beginning of the message, and it is titled, For Your Guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I'm addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them the spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring in religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you are truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Uprushin. Dear listeners, if you wish to pick up a copy of the Grail Message or want to get more information on the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grailmessage.com. Grail, Grail, Message, MESSAGE.com. Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing listeners a beautiful week ahead.
Thank you. Same from me, listeners. Have a beautiful week ahead. I just want to apologize again for the disruption with the power surge where we stopped broadcasting, or at least on blessradio1.com. But we were still on youtube.com. Hopefully, and I know there was some crackling now noise in the background as well. So apologies for all that. Hopefully, it'll be sorted properly next week. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time with another topic. Good night, take care, and God bless.